So I've got my plan all ready to go. You can see that it's a simple A-frame house. The next thing I would want to do is figure out what sorts of shapes I'm going to need to construct for the main shape of the house. Obviously this is an easy one. It's basically a three-dimensional triangle. So looking at the handout that you have on your table, I can figure out that what I need is a three-dimensional triangle, and it tells me that I need 2 equal triangles and 1 long skinny rectangle. So that's what I'm going to cut out. So the first thing I would do is I would start by drawing my triangle on one piece of cardboard, keeping in mind that I don't want it to be any taller than 16 inches. Next thing I would do is I would cut out on my lines. And if it's not the perfect shape, you can always go back and trim it later. Get rid of my scraps, probably save those for later. The next thing I would do is I would trace this triangle that I now have, that I know is about the right size and shape. I would trace it onto a second piece of cardboard, and that's what's going to give me 2 equal triangles. So I can either do that with marker, colored pencil, Sharpie, it really doesn't matter what you use. Trace it, cut on the lines, save those scraps, and then double check by lining them up that they're about equal. I'm noticing that this one needs a little bit of a trim because one is a little bit wider than the other. So I can just trim off a little smidge, and they don't need to be perfect, they just need to be pretty close. Once I've got my 2 big triangles, then I've got to make my long skinny rectangle, and when I cut apart my treat box, it gave me 2 long skinny rectangles from the sides of the box, which coincidentally are the perfect size for the sides of my triangles. So what I can do is hold it in place, measure it to see how long it needs to be, and I can either hold it up to the point of the triangle and then fold it over, which I would fold about right there, or I could just trim it right across where I folded it. It doesn't really matter if it's too long or not. Next thing I would do, I've got about 10 pieces of masking tape tore off and put along the edge of my table so that I'm ready to work, so that I don't have to put down what I'm doing and tear tape every time I need a piece. So I'm just going to tape right along where the 2 pieces come together. Just going to tape over that. I don't necessarily have to hold them together. I can just tape right across it. So now they're joined up. Make sure that the fold is still in the right place. And then I can keep going right around that bend. So I'm about halfway done with putting the skinny rectangle onto my triangle. I would just measure up and see if it's going to be enough. And it looks like I've got plenty. So all I would need to do is fold it and tape it in place.